Welcome to Your Business Success Podcast with your host, Hiroo Chothia, where she and her guests explore strategies of how to gain business mastery through growing your revenue as well as your personal time in order to develop a strong and sustainable business.
Well, hello everyone. A very warm welcome to the Business Growth Mastery Show, where we showcase 6, 7, and 8-figure entrepreneurs, thought leaders, and subject experts so that they can share their breakthroughs, their challenges that you can emulate in terms of their success strategies and grow your business, and ideally avoid the challenges that they have faced as well. I'm really pleased to have with us Michele PW, I hope I said that correctly, or Michele PW, as she's known to many, as my guest today. She is someone I've been meaning to have on the show for a very long time, and I'm absolutely delighted that she and I finally managed to get this together today. So I want to tell you a little bit about Michele first before she comes on. Michele is the best-selling author of the Love-Based Business series of books that share how you can sell more with love and build a solid, profitable business on the foundation of love rather than on the foundation of fear, which is what we're going to explore amongst other things with her today. But a little bit more about Michele first. I was intrigued to read that when she was 3 years old, she taught herself to read because she wanted to write stories so badly. Well, that's what I call passionate about what you do. So as you can imagine, writing has been a driving passion throughout her life. And she went on to become a professional copywriter, which, if you're not familiar with the term, is basically a professional promotionals material for businesses, which led her to found the copywriting and marketing company that has sold nearly $50 million worth of products or services over the past 8 years, which I'm sure you're going to agree is quite an achievement. Her services are really sought after, and her clients include luminaries such as Sasevich, Brian Tracy, Assaraf, Ali Brown, to just name a few. I could go on and on. In addition to all of that, I love the fact that she's also a best-selling writer, fiction writer of psychological thrillers, mystery and suspense books. So as you can see, writing is very much in her DNA, and she has certainly not lost the touch that she ignited when she was 3 years old. Indeed, take it from me, she has become quite a formidable wordsmith. So for those familiar with my show and my coaching programs, you'll be aware of the 3 key pillars that I advocate for business success and financial freedom. Firstly, having the right systems in place as a foundation to support your growth, and also so that you can then spend your energies on revenue generating activity. Secondly, having the right mindset for success. And thirdly, taking very specific and determined action on a daily basis. So those of you who know me will know that, those 3, but in case you don't, that's what we're about. And the reason I'm absolutely delighted to have Michele on the show is not only is she going to share her entrepreneurial journey with us and the challenges of getting where she has got to, but I'm also going to unpick and get an overview of the system that she has used over the last 8 years to amass the $50 million sales that I've referred to. So, Michele, a very warm welcome, and I'm delighted that you can be with us.
Well, I'm delighted to be here too. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure. So before we get started, and before we get into your entrepreneurial journey, how about we kick off by you telling us a little bit about yourself first? We know that you yearn to write stories from a very young age, but did you always have an entrepreneurial flair, business aptitude, or did that creep up on you like many others?
You know, I was pretty convinced that I didn't have it. So it's one of those things that that so just so all of you listening and watching, I've been in business for myself since 1998, and I've made pretty much every mistake you possibly could. So all of you should know that it doesn't matter how many mistakes you make. All that matters is if you get yourself back up. How many times you fall down doesn't matter. It's the getting back up that's important. Because if that wasn't the case, I wouldn't still be in business, because I've certainly fallen down more than my share. But yeah, I was pretty convinced when I was in college and high school that I was going to go get a job. I really thought I was going to climb the corporate ladder, and that was my role. And I so wanted to get a job. And so I started applying after college to jobs, and I kept not getting jobs. And it's interesting how the universe works, because looking back at that period of time, I was so frustrated, because I was usually about like the second, like I would be number two. And so I would always get this phone call from people saying, oh my God, we just loved you, but we went with this person. And, and then I kept
that edge over you, and
just had that edge. And then I kept getting freelance work. So the thing is that I was constantly having projects and things to work on that was bringing money, but I wasn't getting jobs. And so, this was just frustrating. Rather than, at that point, I knew nothing about this. So rather than taking it as a sign which was maybe this wasn't my path, I was bound and determined I'm going to get a job. So I kept working on it, and lo and behold, I feel like looking back, the universe finally said, all right, here's your job. So I finally did get my corporate job, and then I hated it. So, and then so after a while, and then we ended up moving to Arizona. I was in Wisconsin at the time. We moved to Arizona. I got a government job. Didn't like that either. And eventually was like, all right, back to freelancing, because I always, throughout this whole process, I kept getting freelance work. So I'm like, okay, well, maybe that's where I'm supposed to be. So then I became like what a lot of sort of people who are passionate about what they do, but not passionate about having a business. I mean, there's, a couple different types of entrepreneurs out there, and there's like the serial entrepreneur that loves business for loving business. Those are the ones that usually have like a lemonade stand. I never had a lemonade stand. I never really did anything like that. So and then there's people who like, they're really good at what they do, but they're not suited for like a corporate, environment or a job environment. So then they start a job around, it's almost like they create their own job. That's what I feel like it turns into, which is precisely what I did, because you're selling your time. And so when you're like a freelancer or a solopreneur, and you're selling like consulting, or in my case, copywriting, you're selling your time. You created your own job. And I wasn't suited for that either. So quite honestly, it wasn't until I started to actually create a company and create a business. And now I'm like creating multiple companies that I realized that actually, yes, I am supposed to be an actual business person. But it took a very long time to get this through my head, and maybe part of it was that I was sort of blinded by the writing part, because I loved the writing part. So it took me a long time to kind of put everything in their proper places and figure out what I needed to do.
So very fair to say that you fell into it rather than it was your blinding.
Yeah, and then the thing is that I actually kind of have a knack for it and a flair for it. So I mean, it's not as much of a genius as my writing is, but it's not like it is a natural skill set for me. So the thing is that I am suited for it. I just kept denying it. So yeah, I fell into it, but it was something I denied for a really long time, despite, the universe's best efforts at showing me the
trying
way.
to tell you.
Yeah. I just ignored all of it and was like, no, I know best. So
let's just unpick that for a second. Why were you denying it? Because clearly you've underplayed it. You said, you're not as much of a genius. You do not make 50 million in sales in 8
Well,
years.
it's not just me. So just so you know, that's my clients. That's
well.
everything.
Okay,
yes,
but you
yes,
haven't
that's not just my company,
as well as your own company make that. So clearly you do have that flair. But why were you denying it? What was stopping you? Did you just have a mindset that said, I'm not very good at business? Were you stuck in that mindset?
No, I actually, well, yeah, I think that was part of it, but I also had this idea that it was boring. So I really felt like, and so when I look back on this, I really thought, business boring, wah, wah, wah,
Yeah.
and because I remember, and even in college, like I had somebody say to me, when I was majoring in communications and English, and actually almost majored in sociology too, which would have been actually would have been actually a better fit for what it is that I actually do. But I didn't actually finish that major. I took a lot of courses. But I remember somebody saying to me, you should go do something practical, like get an accounting degree, go get business, go get accounting. And so that's what they kept saying. So it's like, I had this idea that business was somehow mixed in with accounting, which like, oh my God, that's like the most boring stuff in the whole entire universe. So it was this belief that, and I wasn't very good at it either. So, so I think there was a little bit of the not being good at it, but it was also just this belief that it was boring. And so and it wasn't until I actually finally figured out what business was. And I'm like, it wasn't boring.
Yeah. So actually a better understanding of what business is and was, and also an appreciation that it could be fun to do once you got into it.
I mean, obviously I still think accounting is boring, but accounting is just, and you do need to know your numbers.
Of course.
So there are certainly elements of business ownership I'm not as crazy about as others, but I mean, but that's the way it is with everything. Even with your like, the thing that I most love to do in the world is write. There are elements of that I'm not always crazy about either. Like I'm going through one last final version of edits with one of my books, and I'm at the point where I'm like, oh, I'm so sick of this book. So yeah, so there's always a time. It doesn't matter how passionate you are, that you just have to dig in and do the discipline thing.
Absolutely. And you've hit it on the head, because I just want to remind listeners that actually, we wear two hats as business owners. We wear what we're passionate about and what we're skilled at, and that might not be being a business owner, but you do still have to wear your business owner hat, but you don't have to be good at everything. And Michele doesn't want to do the accounting, but she's got the sense to be able to hopefully get somebody in to help her do that. And we may not be fantastic at copywriting, for instance, just as an idea, or writing, and that might be your skills. So this is about appreciating that you do have to wear two hats, but you don't have to be a master of both in every aspect of it. That's the point I'm taking away from this. So apart from your amazing start at 3 years old, share something with the audience that they might not know about you.
I don't really know what that would be. I mean, usually I start with the 3-year-olds things. Well, okay, here's one. So this might be an interesting thing too. When in 1998, so that's when I quit the government job and decided, okay, I'm going to do this freelance thing. And I was going to be like, pull up my big girl panties, and I was going to actually be a real business owner instead of just kind of falling into it, which is what I felt like I did before. So I went to SCORE and I got a free business counsel. This is, obviously before, I mean, the internet was there and we had email, but it wasn't the way it is today. And there was no like big, this whole internet marketing, like personal development coaching industry was not there. So there weren't any, there wasn't like a coach I could go hire and be in their program to learn business. So I got a free SCORE counselor. And when he found out I was a writer, he invited a retired freelance copywriter to come talk to me. And she spent the whole time trying to talk me into getting a job. She kept trying to talk me out of being a freelance. It was like, she kept saying like, can you go get your job back? No, and I really couldn't get my job back. No, I really can't get my job back, because I didn't leave on the best of terms. I'm like, no, I can't get my job back. So it's like, and so she kept going, and then she said, well, maybe you can go get your job back and then do this on the side. No, I can't do that. I can't get my job back. Well, and so it kept going on. Finally, at the end, she gave me a few tips, and she just kept, and I kept saying to her, why are you trying to talk me out of it? You did this. It's like, well, it's hard though. It's really hard to do, and not many people succeed. And so at the end, she goes, I can tell. See, I can't convince you. So here's a few tips. She gave me a few tips, which are really not very, and so that was, and then the last thing she said was, which was interesting, was I said, well, part of the reason why I'm so excited to be a freelance, to do this, have my own business, is because then I'll have time to write my fiction books. And she got this look of horror on her face and said, oh my God, don't ever tell anybody you write fiction. They'll never take you seriously as a copywriter. And even though she's not one thing she said was accurate in for whatever reason, I took that piece of information away with me. And my fiction writing became my dirty little secret, that it was only in the last few years that I really have been able to, actually step into and publish my books and be okay telling the world that yes, I do fiction and I do nonfiction. Yeah, but but for a long time it wasn't. It was like this, I can't tell anybody because they'll never hire me as a copywriter.
It's interesting, isn't it, how we try and hide facets of our actual being and our self, which is really our true self, because of the way we think we should behave in business, or the expectations of others of us in business. It's very interesting. Well, thank you for sharing that. I certainly didn't know that you've been for so many years, and I'm so pleased that you haven't hidden it.
Yes.
The fact that we have this multifaceted Michele sitting in front of us, today and sharing away. So I want to start. I was going to say I want to start exploring, but we've already started exploring your entrepreneurial journey.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about your company. We know how you got into it. Tell us a little bit about your company, and for the audience to understand who your sort of target audience is. Who do you serve? Who's your ideal client? How do what's your sort of baby, if you like?
So I have a few different things that I'm kind of growing and nurturing. So the most established is the copywriting services. Mm-hmm. So I actually have a team of copywriters and project managers and all bits. So we actually do done for you copy and marketing. So that's been the bread and butter for a long time, and I'm expanding now. And then another piece of this is I've got a series of nonfiction books about love-based copywriting, love-based online marketing, love-based money and mindset, love-based goals. So it's part of the love-based business series. So I'm offering ways that people can still, like, if they're not ready for the done for you, they can still get the help. And then I just really starting to and then I've got a little middle, where if somebody wants, I've got a done with you copy program that I'm bringing to life, which is it's evergreen, is my love-based copy school, and it's a way that people can come in. Mm-hmm. And get the training, and then have critique help, and have the ability to ask questions and get critiquing from myself and my copy coaches. So it's a combination. So it's done with you. So I've got done for you, done with you, and do it yourself in the books. So covering all that, and then the last thing that I'm kind of doing is with the Love-Based Business series, I'm also starting a love-based publishing company where people can actually have books in the Love-Based Business series, because the love-based philosophy is pretty powerful, and and part of my mission is to really spread that message, and I can't do it alone. So I really want to have other, open up the books so other people can join in as well. Then of course I have the fiction side, so I'm kind of busy. So building the fiction brand, but that's almost totally separate.
So although you have those different aspects, they're all linked. Yes. There's a sort of commonality of the love-based approach. And within that, there's a copywriting and marketing and sales of that aspect as well. Fantastic. So let's sort of look at and break down the whole process. So let's start with copywriting, just in case people on the call don't necessarily, they've heard the term, but they don't really know what copywriting will do for them, for their business, or indeed what you do for people as part of copywriting. So let's explore that first, and then we'll move into the love-based business model and approach. So why don't you explain what you mean by copywriting and why you think it's important?
So
for small businesses.
Yeah, so copywriting, and we kind of touched on this, but it's writing promotional materials. There's nothing to do with protecting intellectual property. So that's all governments and lawyers and putting a copyright on something like COPYRIGHT. It's spelled differently. What I do is COPYWRITING. So that's part. So that's part of it. So this, and why it's so important, especially for entrepreneurs, and is because what I specialize in is something called direct response copywriting. There's a lot of different types of copy, and direct response copy, basically you're creating marketing materials where your ideal prospects are directly responding. So basically these are those emails that are asking you to click on a link. These are sales pages that you're scrolling down forever going, how much is this? Does anybody read all this? And but they got the buy button, because the marketing materials are actually, they're asking for the sale. So they're part of the whole. So you can create like a whole marketing funnel and help move people through it, sort of, automated, and, or at least partially automated, if not fully automated. And that's very powerful, because the thing is that it's taking the place of a salesperson. If you don't have that in place, then either you personally, or you need a team, but it needs to be done one-on-one. So this is your way of leveraging your marketing and your copy. If you don't have it, then you have to go out and find the prospects. You have to go and connect with them. You have to follow up with them. You have to make the sale, and then you have to actually, deliver what you offered. So it's possible. There are a lot of businesses who do that. I mean, like massage therapists. I mean, people who are just, you find it with very local businesses who just want to do what, be a massage therapist, and they're happy, or a dog groomer or whatever. And, and they're not really looking to expand. Yeah. So in that case, maybe they don't need direct response copy. But if you're looking to grow, to leverage yourself, and if you have like a big mission in the world, then having it is really a cost-effective way to do this. Yeah. So now the problem with it is that if you've been in this, like, those long sales letters, they might have felt hypey or salesy or inauthentic and yucky, and you just don't want to have anything to do with your business.
I'm not a fan.
I know most people aren't.
But I am not a fan.
So for a long time, I had people saying to me, Michele, can you come up with a new way of writing copy that doesn't feel so salesy and inauthentic and icky? And I said, absolutely not. There's plenty of good copy stuff out there. But I kind of sat with it too, and people kept giving me names too. There's a lot of push. Again, like I said, I have for many, many years, I ignored nudges from the universe. So I certainly learned by the 2x4 way, but so they gave me names like conscious copywriting or attraction copywriting. And I just kept thinking with it, because I didn't want to come up with I didn't want to come up with sort of like a different type of copy, because then I felt like it would be like an other, like, they say like, well, if you're not serious, if you're serious about growing your business, you're going to use, grown up traditional direct response copy. And if you're not serious, then you can go over here in the corner and use this, like, conscious copywriting. Yeah. So one day, my friend Susan Liddy had come out with this love-based marketing it's a book. It's kind of a book. It was more like a kind of a free special report she gave out for a while. And I looked at it and I thought, love-based copy. And I thought, well, what's the opposite? Fear-based copy. And that's when the whole philosophy downloaded into me. And I realized that the reason why traditional direct response copy feels so salesy and authentic icky is because it's triggering fear. Yeah. You see, in order to persuade anybody to do anything, and this is beyond copy and marketing in your business and making sales. This is about trying to get your kids to go to bed at a certain bedtime, or your spouse to take you out to your favorite restaurant. As humans, we're social. We live in groups. We live in communities. And part of the way we communicate is through persuasion. And, that is just part of it. So, and if we want to persuade somebody to take action, we need to actually tap into their emotions. And you have a choice. You can tap into fear-based emotions or love-based emotions. And that's, if you tap into fear-based emotions, you're creating fear-based copy and marketing and persuasion. If you're tapping into love, then you've got love-based copy, marketing, persuasion. So I started to write my books, and I started to sort of really dig in to this philosophy of how can you sell more using love-based copy. And then that's what, I realized it's like over the 8 years, for myself and my clients, I've sold, nearly $50 million in products and services. So that's how it kind of came out.
I'm curious, did you how was that received by your client base at the time and your community, who very much knew you as the traditional copywriter? How was that received, and how did you convince them? I'm absolutely curious about that.
It actually wasn't that different from what I was already doing. See, that's the thing, because I had so much pushing. And first of all, okay, so actually there's a few things here. Like, I did learn traditional direct response copy. And there's a part of me, while a part of me liked it because I'm a big believer in getting results for my clients, and I like being an asset. I was definitely uncomfortable with a lot of it. I mean, there was definitely and then there was a time where I would just do it. So, I mean, I'm glad I went through this, because it's good to learn, because otherwise, if you don't learn, first you have to learn the rules to break them.
Of course.
So I did it because, the clients were paying me. But, when I had, these people coming to me and saying, I want a different way to do it, I was doing it anyways for them, because I agreed with them. I didn't like the manipulative aspect of a lot of traditional direct response copy either. I just didn't know. People were blaming the copy, and I didn't feel like that was right, because I felt like it was sort of a tool. You could use it for good or you could use it for evil, like kind of like the Force. Not that fear is evil, but you can use it for love or you can use it for fear. And so I was doing it anyways. And it was interesting because before I came up with love-based copy, somebody said to me once that they were a copywriter. They said to me, people ask me, do you write Dan Kennedy type of copy, he's more traditional, or are you writing Michele PW type of copy? So I know. So I was already kind of making a name for a different type of writing copy. So then by putting a name on it and explaining the philosophy, people were just relieved. I remember when I first got my book out, the very first version of my love-based copywriting book, which that's volume 2 is what's now available. You can't, volume 1 isn't available anymore. But I got it out there, and I remember I was getting emails from people that said, oh my God, I am so relieved. This is just, you've given me so much hope. You've given me so much relief reading this. And I started to realize that's when I started to realize, there's something here, because I was giving them a choice. The choice before was do this, fear-based, traditional direct response copy, and make money, or just be kind of a hobby business. That was really the choices they were giving. And the people who teach it weren't mean. They weren't trying. Dan Kennedy is not trying to sell fear. He is very pragmatic. I know him personally. And what he is this works. It works. So he's trying to help you make money. So, and in the best way he knows how. Yeah. So, and most copywriters, the ones that are in traditional direct response copy, most of them feel like that that to them it's like the means, the ends justify the means. They believe that, and that's fine. That's a perfectly legitimate way of moving through life. I feel that people who more resonate with the love-based copy and with what I teach is they don't just say the ends justify the means. How we bring them in is just as important, because if we bring them in and they feel icky about it, they're not going to be good clients. They are, it's not going to be a good fit. Nobody's really going to be happy. Refund rates will be higher. Your brand, it does cause brand erosions. So I feel like my role in all this is to really just say, actually you do have a third choice. It's not use this or don't use this and grow, and don't use this and don't grow. It's, you can use this here's a third way. If you don't like either one, there's a third option. And part of direct response, part of the love-based philosophy really is educating and then stepping back and letting people make their own decisions. So quite honestly, if you hear this and you don't resonate with it, that's fine. So, my job really is just to educate and let everybody else make up their own mind.
Okay, so for those people who think, just going back to copywriting, something that I thought about, again, for people who perhaps have only ever associated it with sales copy. So I just want to sort of untangle that slightly, because I sometimes talk to people and I'm you know, my philosophy is, as a small business owner, unless you are absolutely brilliant at, say, for instance, sales and marketing, go and outsource that activity. To give the person like yourself or your company the feel for what you're trying to create or have created, but hand it over to someone who's the expert. But people fail to understand that sometimes copywriting is more than sales copy, you know, for your product or service. Do you want to say a little bit about that? Do you first of all agree with my view, and do you want to say something about that?
I do think, I do feel like marketing or hiring it out is the best way. Now, I know a lot of people, this is worrisome to them because they're not at a level yet. But yeah, I'd say that as soon as you can, it's the way to do it, because you know, it is difficult to wear two hats. If you don't outsource it, you are wearing two hats. And unless you want to wear it, and most people don't really particularly like marketing, and they're not kind of real. So if you don't want to wear those two hats, it is best to get it out there. And the beauty of getting help with the marketing and sales is that it will pay for itself. You know, the problem with like a bookkeeper, and I'm a big believer in hiring bookkeepers too, so don't get me wrong. But you know, the thing about hiring a bookkeeper is that's kind of an expense. I mean, there's no real, I mean, there's other than freeing up your time and energy to make more money, which is very important. And like I said, I'm a huge believer in hiring a bookkeeper, but it's in terms of like actually, you know, like having a bottom line thing, like you had the bookkeeper and you made this much money, you know, you're not going to see
there isn't a direct return on
Exactly.
investment that you can link it to. There will be a return on investment, but not.
It's like cleaning your house too.
Exactly.
I mean, I'm a big believer in that too. I mean, there's no direct investment where you clean your house and you make more money. So you can try to tie it in, like, you know, for, okay, the hours that they're cleaning your house, you're actually doing revenue generating stuff, but it's a game you're playing a little bit. So, but again, like, I mean, if you know, there's something to be said for freeing up your time and energy so you can make more money. So it absolutely is a good thing. But with sales and marketing, there is, you can hire some, you can say like, okay, you did this launch, you made this much amount of money. So it's a lot more of a direct result. So yes,
more tangible.
Yes.
Definitely.
And, you know, and do what you can. I mean, that's part of the reason why I have the Done With You program, because it's very, very affordable. And I did that for precisely that, for people who want more help than the books, you know, but they're not ready for the complete done for you.
So it's a sort of midway offer for those people. But what I was getting at also was, I completely agree, and thank you for clarifying that. But I was thinking about the fact that copywriting is often only associated with sales, and it's so much more about what it says about you, your business, and all of that. And a lot of people see copywriting in a very, very narrow fashion.
Yes, I agree, because it's how you're communicating with your prospects, with your list, how you're showing yourself to the world. So so that's part of the reason why I do so much believe in the love-based philosophy, especially if you want to build a love-based business. If you don't want to build a love-based business, and obviously this isn't applicable, but if you want to build a love-based business, then you have to look at every part of your business, and especially how you're bringing your clients in. So if you are bringing your clients in with fear, you can't have a love-based business. You just can't. So it's just not, so you have to start with bringing them in with love and communicating with them with love. And that's where the love-based copy philosophy can help.
Right. I think, so what we're, just so that everyone's clear, we're not saying that you can't have the fear-based approach if that's what you want in your business.
Exactly.
That's a choice that you make for yourself. Something that I've been thinking about quite a lot is that for me, when I was thinking about you coming on the show, was that for me, fear is possibly a slightly easy emotion to tap into, because we've got fear all around us in society. You know, it seems to me that if one tends to go for the fear-based approach, that might and can work quite well for, say, the initial sale. But if you're looking to build a relationship with your tribe, with your community, with your client base, with potential prospects, then actually, if you want that beyond that first sale, there's got to be a little bit more of a connection. You can't just keep scaring them, and using fear as your base. That's my reading of the situation.
Yeah, well, fear-based emotions is all types of fear. It's not just scare. It's also shame too. So that's
shame,
another thing. Yeah,
scarcity,
shame's a big one.
Yeah.
Shaming people in the bind. And so here's kind of my take with fear-based is that yes, it is easier. And so because it's on the surface, and as an entrepreneur, it's easy to get in fear. Like if we have any kind of cash flow challenges, and there's fear's right there, unless we've done a lot of work on ourselves. And so for a little bit in scarcity, a little bit fear. So if we are in fear or pretty close to it, it's going to be very hard, very difficult to actually market ourselves with love. So starting with ourselves and looking at our mindset is the way to go. So so that's part of the reason why fear-based is easier. And and I mean, yes, and the thing is, you can certainly build a successful, profitable business using it. I mean, and that's fine. And so and also I want to say here that you need to be patient with yourself, because you probably will fall down. That's okay. Like I said, it's if you get up. It's not how many times you fall down, it's how often you get up. So if you mess up and you bring somebody in with fear or shame, shaming them such as, well, obviously, you're not taking yourself seriously if you don't buy, that's like a very common shame thing to say. And you see that a lot. And it works. It can work really well, because your ideal prospects also have fear. They're also in shame. So so the thing is, you're reaching for the emotion that's right there, and you're hitting their emotion that's right there. So that's why on the surface it looks like it works. But buyer's remorse, see, I am becoming more and more a believer that buyer's remorse comes in a lot more when you bring people in with fear than with love. Because, right, think of it this way, like let's say you have a bad day at work and you come home and you have a little too much to drink, and because that's how you deal with, anytime you have bad emotions. Think about this, like you procrastinate, you watch too much TV, you get into a fight, you overeat, you overshop, you reach for the ice cream, you do all the stuff in your heart you shouldn't be doing, but you're trying to distract yourself from feeling the fear-based emotions. So then what happens the next day? You feel regret. You beat yourself up. You think to yourself, I shouldn't have done that. So that's buyer's remorse. So think about it, because you trigger fear or shame or guilt or whatever in your ideal prospect. The implicit promise, you're not saying it, but the implicit promise is if they buy your product, that it's going to go away. So they do buy their product. So it's like reaching for that Ben and Jerry's. They do buy your product. So then what happens? So then the next day they're like, oh, why did I buy this? It's like then the buyer's remorse comes in. I'm not going to say you never have buyer's remorse when you're doing it through love, because obviously, especially if somebody's like a really big amount of money, they might go like, oh my God. But it happens. I think it probably happens all the time with fear. So that's what you have to look at. You have to look at all areas of this. And like I said, and you have to be compassionate with yourself. I mean, that was hard for me to learn to do. Because, if you've done it in the past, we've all done it in the past, because, we do what we see other people do, and we don't know any better. So, we're all doing the best we can.
Indeed. Okay, so if you've not as yet been convinced by Michele's love-based approach to business, I'm going to ask us to now explore some objections and do a sort of quick fire of myth busting. So for example, love-based business is just too way out and woo-woo for serious business owners. What do you say?
So what it's really about is sort of building, it's like how you're really responding to the world. So it's not so much about woo-woo, but like if you're building a business and you're constantly in sort of a knee-jerk reaction, like your team says something and you like yell at them, or or a client, like, you have a difficult client and you freak out. All of those are you allowing your emotions to control you. I mean, your emotions are controlling you. You're making decisions and taking action from your fear-based emotions. That's what I mean by building a business on a foundation of fear. If you don't allow, I mean, even if you, once you've stepped into this, you still feel those emotions. I mean, those emotions are a part of being human.
Yes.
But the difference is that you don't allow them to control you. You don't allow them to, you're not making decisions on them. You're not reacting. Instead, you can sit with it. You can see what the message is and then move forward appropriately. So that's really what this is about. This is about really a way of living your life. So you are not allowing your fear-based emotions to control you.
Okay. Next one. I won't be taken seriously if I switch my sales and marketing approach from a fear-based approach to a love-based approach.
That's a new one. I haven't heard that one before. I don't know why. I don't know why people would be taking seriously or not taking seriously. It's really interesting. That feels like a lot of fear.
Yes.
So I guess I would sit with to me it's like, you know, you're just simply giving people a choice. So I don't know why giving somebody a choice would make them.
Well, I guess I was
seriously.
thinking, you know, if you've already been in business a while, you've used fear-based approach and it's worked. Then the fear in you will be that you won't be taken seriously as a business owner if you switch.
So I don't know how to convince you otherwise, other than that's just not true. So I don't know anybody that's now. What may happen if you've done it before is you may see a dip. So I would just say if this is resonating with you, but you have a business that's on fear and you want to switch, just know that it may not be a smooth transition, because that's not what your ideal prospects are used to you. So they may be kind of taken aback. So, but if you just kind of breathe and move through it, I think you'll be able to do that.
But it's again, the reason I'm throwing this one out to you is because it's like any change in business.
Exactly.
If you make that you're going to have to test it out. It may be 2 steps forward, 10 steps back. Initially, you test, you pair it, you change it, and then you refine it.
Right. Exactly. And I think, and just be patient with yourself, because, it's when you make anytime you're going to change your business around, it can be really scary. And I will say that, okay, if you're making money and all is well, and that's, this might not be for the case, but the thing is, if you're unhappy, if you feel really stressed and overwhelmed and you're unhappy, you don't like the people you've brought in, that might be a sign that you're supposed to change. And when you change, you are, things, the world could turn upside down. So, but I'm certainly not, there's no guarantees here. I'm not guaranteed a smooth transition. But what I'm saying is when you get to the other side, you'll be really glad you did.
Yeah. So like all change, you've got to go through that journey and get to that end, and then you might see the benefits of that change.
Yeah. And part of the transformation is the journey. So the thing is that the lessons that you learn on the transformation are part of what you need in order to have the business that you want.
Absolutely. And what Michele said right at the start was that she fell down many, many times. But what we're hearing is she got up, she learned, she moved on, she refined, and she moved on. And that's the key message here. Okay. And you've already answered one of the ones I was going to throw at you, which was I won't generate as many sales if I switch to this approach. Well, you might not straight away.
You might not. And the thing is that is a drawback. So, I think we need to all know this, and that initially it is very possible that you will not see as many sales. It's not for sure. There's no, it's like, initially that could be. And the thing is that, what I've seen with the love-based philosophy, and when people who've really made the commitment to it, is that it grows over time, and it gets easier over time, because the thing is that people learn to trust you, and you learn to trust your people so that they come to you when they're ready, versus you trying to force them to be ready sooner so that you can feel better about your bank account. But it is a trust, it is a surrender, and it can be very scary. So, but once you have that trust and that respect, then your ideal prospects will tend to, they'll start flowing to you at a better rate.
But also you've hit it on the head. One of the things I was hearing from you was the fact that if they're already in your tribe, they've got to know you. They've got to know your values and your beliefs. And even if they came in on the fear-based approach, if you're starting to shift your approach, that's going to be apparent in everything you say to them, do with them. And you can start to incorporate some of that thinking and changing. And
and start connecting with them, because it's really about connecting. And so connecting and content, and you can just start right there and then just take some baby steps.
Absolutely. Okay, so I want to shift back to you, if I may, from the sort of approach. I want you to describe some of the challenges that you've faced in your journey so far and how you've overcome some of these anxieties, so that people can really learn from this.
Really. So it is, God, there's been so many.
Just pick one or two.
Pick one or two. I guess, since we're talking about money, and money is a big thing, and money is a scary thing with this, and that's part of been my mirror. Mm-hmm. So, we all have a mirror that shows up where our issues are, and for some people it's relationships or health, or they multiple mirrors. But with me, it's always been pretty firmly in the money. So, and I was convinced. I did build a 6-figure business on fear, which was, I kept believing that if I made 6 figures, I made multiple 6 figures, that the more, I had this mistaken belief that the money would bring me peace. So and that's what I really wanted. If you really dug underneath there, that's what I really wanted, was the peace. So, what I learned was, the more money I brought in with fear, the more fearful I felt. So the more money I made, the more stressed, more anxiety, because now all of a sudden I was also worried about losing it. So it wasn't just, I had both things going on. So, it was really, so what I would love to say is that if you have a lot of anxiety and worry about money, making more money is not going to make that go away. And that may not be what you want to hear, because it certainly wasn't what I wanted to hear. But being peaceful with money starts with you feeling peaceful about money. And so that is separate from how much or how little you have in your bank account. It just is. And so you almost need to treat it as two separate things. Like, you need to make more money. That's fine. Make more money, but don't connect it to feeling peaceful. You feeling peaceful is a separate journey than you making more money. And it took me a while to really get that through my head and kind of straighten that out.
So that's an excellent point about what I was abbreviating right at the start in terms of my sort of pillars of approach. When I talk about the mindset of success, that's not just the dollar or pound signs ticking away in the bank account. That's one element of it, but it's what you do and how you react to that, how you spend your time with, because you could have all the money in the world, but you could be desperately unhappy, as you've just referred to. You might not have time to spend the money, enjoy the money. So it's all about that mindset. So very, very, very pleased to hear that. Most surprising thing you've learned on your journey so far?
Well, I think probably is that I actually, like business. That was probably one of them. So, and now I've got like multiple businesses I'm growing. Oh, and I'm also, because I've got all these multiple passions. And so I'm building, I never thought that I would be building multiple businesses as kind of a multi-passionate entrepreneur. If you had asked me this a few years ago, like 5 years, I would have been like, no. So, because I actually always kind of thought multi-passionate entrepreneurs just needed to like get a grip and pick something and stop. Not because they didn't want, people need to do what need to do, but the thing is, you are making it more difficult for yourself. So to me, I was like, stop making it so difficult yourself, just pick something. But now that I'm fully embraced everything, I see why you can't, it's not as easy as that. So if you're feeling called for it, you have to do it, but just know going in that it is going to be more work. There's just no get around it.
And I think the point that I often, I in my own life have had this issue where people have said, well, why, are you a consultant and a coach, or are you a this and a that? What you can be all of those things. You've just got to be comfortable in yourself. You've got to realize that it's a big ask if you're going to do it all at once, and you certainly wouldn't want to do it all of it at once. You've got to start somewhere, embed that and maybe move on.
Yeah, it is certainly easier to have one thing, because like the done with you, or the done for you, I'm sorry, copy was, was in play. So I didn't have to do anything with that. I could start building the other things. But, you are building one. I mean, when it does feel like you have multiple trains. So you have to get off, even with a team to help, which I have a team to help, you still have to hold the vision and lead it. So that means you get off of one train and get on another train. So it's just, and you just have to kind of dance with the process.
Yeah.
So, and just know that's what you're getting into. And if it just long as you know what you're signing up for, and that that's what you're, and the not doing it is more painful than doing it, then do it.
Yeah, absolutely. So a very common one that I ask every single guest, because it's such an enormous issue, is how do you deal with rejections?
So that it was painful years back before I got really comfortable, because again, that tends to trigger, a lot of the fear-based stuff that we're kind of doing, which again, why, building your, which is again, like if you can start shifting your business to a love-based business, that's not going to trigger you anymore, because you're going to realize that it has nothing to do with you. But when because it really doesn't, people can decide to not move forward with you for any number of reasons. And it could even be because you're not a good fit, or they're too uncomfortable being in your energy. There isn't really much you can try, and some people do, and I think I've done it. I think we've all been there, where we try to then we realize this, and so we try to contort ourselves to be more acceptable. So that's certainly something that we could do. It tends to not serve us as well in the long run. So I think the way to deal with what I would encourage you to do, and it's not going to feel very good, but is to sit in those emotions and just let them move for you. And here, I'll tell you a very quick story. This is my fiction book, The Stolen Twin. And when I first published it, first got it out there a couple years ago, I paid for a couple of reviews and editorial reviews to get it going. And one of them was Kirkus. And I got it back and I was so excited. And the person trashed it. Oh my God, they hated this book. And I read it and I burst out into tears. And it was funny because my husband comes in and says, "Oh, it can't be that bad." And I show it to him and he looked at me, he's like, "All right, they didn't like it." And I cried harder. So I'm just, and the thing is that when I really felt this, like I was mortified. I felt I was embarrassed. It's like I wanted to I was getting ready to launch it to my list. It's like I wanted to cancel the launch. I wanted to unpublish the book. I mean, I was so mortified. And that's the thing. I was mortified and embarrassed, and I was shamed by that review. And what's funny,
isn't it?
Yeah. But I sat with it. I cried. Like I said, I cried and I just sat with it and I felt it. And what's happened now? I really don't care with bad reviews. But what happened, and one of the things that Kirkus says is that, this review is, while it's not a guarantee of success or failure, why they were reviewing it that way is like, if you get a bad review, it's probably not going to do very well. That's what I don't remember how they spaded it, but it's like, you should look it up. Well, that book has actually been my best-selling little book. I mean, I sold
Good for you.
30,000 copies of that book over the last couple of years, which isn't easy to do as an independent fiction author. So, and it's still chugging along. So the thing is that they absolutely got that completely wrong. And if I had allowed the fear-based emotions to control me, I probably would have canceled everything and yanked it from the, well, maybe I wouldn't have unpublished it, but I probably would have just not marketed or done anything with it. And it wouldn't have seen this. Yeah, I would have had the success. So sit with the emotions, cry, do whatever you need to do to let them move through you. And the next time you feel rejection, it will be easier.
Absolutely. And you'll learn and move on, won't you, each time?
Yeah.
I mean, the world didn't fall in.
Exactly.
You didn't let it, and it didn't fall in. It was as simple as that, Okay. So your number one tip for listeners?
I said this before, but I always like to end with it anyways, which is be patient with yourself, be compassionate with yourself. You are in precisely the right place right now. I know it may not feel that way. And, you might be impatient like I always am, but, really transformation is going to happen as fast as it's going to happen. And that's one of the things that I've really, like, I've tried to push and force things to happen faster than they want to, and they never do. All they do is make it lead to more frustration and angst and overwhelm, or things breaking or something going wrong. So surrendering to the process and transformation is going to happen as fast as it's going to happen. And just the sooner you accept that doesn't mean don't take action, keep taking action. It just means don't force the process, allow it to unfold the way it's going to unfold, and take the steps that appear in front of you.
Yeah, totally agree. Okay. And so we're approaching the end of the interview, and I just want to do a very quick highlight of some of the takeaways that I've come away with from this amazing interview. So much resonated with me. I'm really hoping it will with the listeners as well. But several things, I guess, were really sharp for me. One was about the multiple passions and the multiple businesses. Don't let yourself be put off. You can do it if you have multiple passions. Let yourself and allow yourself to move into that arena, but do it in a sort of systematic way. You can't do everything all at once. That's what I was hearing from Michele, and it took her a while to learn this. She hid her whole fictional genius from the world for so long, and finally she gave into it. I really, really liked what you said about sitting in your emotions when it comes to rejection. Rejection is such a difficult aspect of business, and not accepting the sort of fear-based approach within ourselves, and not letting people dictate what you're going to do just because you've been rejected by one or two of them, and accepting that they might reject you for a variety of reasons. And then lastly, what you've just said, really, which was about ensure you take action, but be patient with yourself, that transformation will happen as and when it needs to. And you forcing it is not going to make it happen any quicker. In fact, if anything, certainly in my own experience, I know, like you, I'm extremely impatient, and I have made more blooming work for myself because I've tried to rush it at times.
Or you derail yourself. Exactly. I mean, it could take longer by trying to force it because then you stop taking action because you get frustrated.
Absolutely.
And then it's definitely going to take longer.
Absolutely. Well, I want to really finish by letting you know that Michele is very kindly gifting her copy of her book, How to Start a Business You Love and That Loves You Back, which so sums up what we've been talking about today. And she's gifting this to all of you on the show. Just to clarify, it's not just for people who are starting a business.
Right.
It's very much for those who are already part of their entrepreneurial journey but want to make that shift that Michele has talked about throughout the interview, and want to change their approach to a love-based approach. I was very kindly sent a copy of the book, and I found it very full of very, very practical strategies, very easy to read, very easily applicable strategies to your business. So go and get it at lovebasedbiz.com. She's got it plastered all over behind her as well. Lovebasedbiz.com. And if you want to know more about Michele and the services that she's referred to, the done for, the middle ground, you can get all of the information from michelepw.com. Is that correct, Michele? Michele?
Yes. Yeah, or lovebasedbiz.com, which is all back here.
Both,
so either way, you'll get there. There are multiple ways.
Excellent.
Multiple paths to get to the same place.
I love it. And we will obviously put both those links on for the show notes as well. So it just remains for me to say a huge thank you to Michele for being my guest today, for being such a wonderful guest, for contributing and making it a fun-filled interview and sharing all her warts and all experiences up to now. Thank you very, very much, Michele.
Well, you're very welcome for having me. So I loved it.
We've absolutely loved it. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on this week's podcast. Join us again next time when Hiroo and her guests will help you to understand how to gain business mastery so that you too can develop a strong and sustainable business. In the meantime, you can find more information at growyourbusinesssuccessfully.net.